Hi, everybody. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. We'll just wait for a couple more people to join us here. I'm just going to make sure that the chat is enabled. Perfect. Excellent. Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. Yeah, we'll just get started in a couple of minutes here. I hope everyone's having a good day. Awesome. Thank you for confirming the chat is working. Excellent. Also, feel free to share where you're joining us from. I love to know where everyone is joining us from. That's the best part. It makes the world feel smaller. So I'm in Toronto, in Canada. It's finally the first day of 3 weeks where it's slightly warmer. So I don't have to wear two pairs of pants when I leave the house, which is exciting. I hope some of you are in warmer climates. Toronto near the zoo. Oh, awesome. Perfect. Okay, great. All right. Awesome. So if someone from Natick, amazing. From the States, great. Crazy warm. Oh my gosh, in Colorado. That must be so nice. Yeah, we'll get it through. Don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get to spring. Toronto will get to spring eventually. All right, well, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Erica, and I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Akindi. And today we are looking at Akindi 101, getting started with Akindi online assessments. So thank you so much for taking the time to tune in, and I hope you walk away from this session ready and confident to use Akindi for any upcoming online assessments. So a couple of housekeeping items before we begin is that the Q&A or the chat is open. So feel free to throw in any questions, comments throughout the session. We'll also be fielding questions throughout the webinar as well. The webinar is also recorded and will be shared with you following the session along with resources. So if you have any questions or you're following along today and want more further details, there will be written resources coming your way as well. Okay, so let's get started. So to begin, I just want to share our meeting agenda here. So first, we're going to take a look at what Akindi solves and why it's valuable to use it for your online assessments. And then we'll look at how to launch Akindi from your learning management system. Then we'll do a step-by-step walkthrough for creating an online assessment. And then we'll end with a Q&A. If you are at your computer and if you want to follow along, feel free to do so. So to begin, let's take a look at what Akindi actually solves. So whether it's paper assessments or online assessments, Akindi's goal is to address these three main pain points that we hear from instructors. And these pain points are creating multiple version assessments without manual work, running the assessment smoothly and confidently, and then getting grades back and analytics back fast. And currently, running multiple versions of an assessment is the primary way instructors protect academic integrity. But we also know the current way to create multiple version assessments is very error prone and time consuming. So Akindi's features address these problems in creating multiple version assessments without the need of manual labor. And Akindi now meets instructors at the beginning of their assessment workflow so that you can draft and edit your questions directly within Akindi. Akindi is also branching out beyond just multiple choice questions by supporting different question types, such as matching questions, as well as supporting the grades for written answer questions to allow a very seamless integration of these question types into your greater multiple choice assessment. So that come test day, Akindi handles all of the bubble sheets, or for online assessments, it handles all the results for you, and it basically speeds things up for you so you get your analytics back. And then for your results, Akindi combines analytics across all versions and displays it with your question content so that you can quickly understand how your assessment and how your students performed. So that being said, let's get started with Akindi. So today I'm going to use Blackboard, but Akindi is integrated with various different learning management systems depending on which one your institution uses. So following this session, I'll also follow up with a guide on how to launch Akindi from your respective LMS. But for today, if you're using Blackboard, you essentially want to sign into your Blackboard account, go to the course that you want to launch Akindi from. And then under books and tools, you'll find this tab that opens here. Yours will look slightly different. Yours probably just says Akindi or Launch Akindi, and you just want to click on that to open the Akindi launch page. Once that loads, you'll click Launch Akindi Assessments, and that will bring you into Akindi itself. So one of the first things you'll notice is that, let's take a look at the roster first. Your roster has already automatically been brought in directly from your course shell. So this gets resynced every time you launch Akindi. So this is particularly helpful at the beginning of semester when students are adding or dropping courses. This will automatically update, and you don't have to worry about changing things from Akindi as well as in your LMS. This, when you're running an online assessment, is also where the roster is where the roster is also where Akindi will post your information for when running an online assessment. You'll also notice that you don't need a separate login for your Akindi account. Just logging into Blackboard itself is enough of an authorization to get you into Akindi. There is no separate password or login. So to begin, let's start with creating our assessment. And this is addressing our first pain point, which is creating multiple version assessments without the manual work. So to create an assessment, we're going to click the Create Assessment button here. And this is the same workflow if you were to create a paper assessment. Today, we're going to look at online assessments. We'll click online assessment down here. But if you're looking to create a paper assessment where Akindi scrambles your question content for you and students are writing on a physical bubble sheet, you can upload that document here. Or if you're just looking for the Akindi Classic experience, which is just the bubble sheet, you can access that here as well. So let's begin with the online assessment. We'll click that. And that'll bring you into step 1 of 4 to create your online assessment. One of the first things we're going to do is give our assessment a name. So for example, this is my midterm exam. This is an online assessment. And here you can choose how you want to deliver your assessment. So someone just asked, how long will Akindi Classic version remain? So we have no plans to sunset Akindi Classic. That will remain accessible to you. Excuse me, accessible to you if that is the preferred workflow you want to use. That being said, we're also not improving it. So what we have right now as it stands is what is going to remain for Akindi Classic, but it will still be available to you. Excellent. So when delivering an online assessment, you can choose to deliver it through the LMS or deliver it through email. The difference here is that if you're delivering it through the LMS, your students must log into their own LMS account, so Blackboard, Canvas, whatever you're using, to be able to access the link to open the assessment. If you're delivering through email, students will be able to access the link without needing to sign into any account. They will have the link directly in their email body. So that's up to you how you prefer to deliver that assessment. So for today, we're going to say deliver through LMS. Next, you'll choose how you want your test questions to be displayed. So right now and going forward, one question at a time is going to be the recommended and preferred way of displaying your question content. And this is because at Akindi, we are streamlining how assessments are created for both online and paper assessments. The goal is that in the future, you'll be able to create one assessment and not need to pre-decide whether you're running it online or on as a paper assessment. You just create the assessment, then you decide how you want to administer it at the end of your creation. So displaying one question at a time, which means that students will kind of how the preview shows here, only one question will be shown, and students will have to click next to get to the following questions. Some of you, if you have been creating online assessments with us before, might have used the full PDF display option. So this is actually being removed after this semester. So over the summer, this option will be removed. And a little bit of context here is that this option was created during the pandemic as a way of very quickly being able to put online assessments together, where the full PDF is visible to the students as they write their assessment. And now that we see a lot of assessments are going back to in-person or in physical classrooms, we're going to remove this so that we can better streamline how Akindi is going to develop in the future with the one question at a time option. The last option for displaying your questions is you don't upload any questions at all. So in this situation, perhaps you're displaying or projecting your questions in the classroom on a board, and students are answering on their own devices. So that is another option for you there. For today, we are going to look at one question at a time. And when you choose to create a assessment using one question at a time, you can also choose to scramble your questions or scramble your answers, and whether or not you allow backtracking. If you've created a paper assessment with Akindi using our new workflow, this is a very similar process where if you scramble questions for each different student, the questions will be in a different order or random order. And for the answers order will also be scrambled amongst itself. You can choose to scramble both as well. So there's a question right now about your test contains demographic questions at the start of the test. How can I ensure the demographic questions remain static while using the scramble option? So that is a great question, and we will get to that in the next step when we upload your question content. So we can then decide how much scrambling we want to put into our assessment and whether or not we want to allow backtracking. So as the preview just showed you, if you toggle off backtracking, that means students are unable to go back to questions they've already answered. But if you enable backtracking, students can go back and forth until they submit their assessment. So let's continue. And the next step here is to upload your question content. If you've used the Akindi's new workflow, this is a very similar layout where the main page here is an editor in itself. Because I've named my assessment midterm exam in the previous step, that shows up here, but I can also edit that here just simply by typing. We have a question here. Will we touch on how Akindi might work with monitoring processes? Yes, and lockdown browsers. Actually, I can answer that right now. So Akindi currently does not work with any type of lockdown browser or proctoring browsers. That is not something that our system is able to support. So students will be able to click in and out of the browser while writing their online assessments. Unfortunately, that is not something that we currently are able to support. So now going back to uploading your question content, and very similar process if you've used the Akindi paper, you can upload your Word document that contains your questions. So to do that, I can click Import Questions, and I'm just going to select the Word document that has my assessment content in it. While that uploads, I'm just going to share with you what the document looks like that I'm uploading. And this is the Word document that I'm uploading here. You'll notice that my questions are numbered, my answers are lettered. Akindi can support tables, it can support images, and it can also support matching questions. So a matching question is automatically detected when you have a a left column that is numbered and a right column that is lettered. In this case, in a Word document, I created a table, but you can also just tab over to create two columns, and Akindi can automatically detect this as a matching question upon upload. For your multiple choice questions, you'll notice that some of these answers are bolded, and that is pre-creating your answer key for you. So you can bold, highlight, or add an asterisk next to the correct answers for your multiple choice questions, and then upon upload, Akindi will automatically create your answer key for you. So let's pop back over to Akindi to see how our upload has gone. And here we are. So you can see the Word document that I just shared with you is now uploaded onto Akindi. The answer key has already also been created for you. And you'll notice that my matching question has also been included here too. So for matching questions, you are unable to predetermine your answer key. This is something you'll have to select manually. And to do that, you can just click select answers and click on however many answers or correct answers there are to your matching question. Earlier, there was a question about keeping certain questions or keeping certain questions together, and that is done within a question group. So you see that there is a gray dotted box that goes around this entire section here, and this is what Akindi has identified as a question group. Question groups are multiple questions that relate to the same information. And it could be an image or a table, or maybe it's a chapter, and you want to keep all these questions together. And questions within a question group will remain together when they are scrambled. Akindi is able to smart detect a question group upon uploading by recognizing how the question is phrased. So wording such as use the data, use the image below to answer the following X amount of questions, and Akindi will automatically create a question group right here. When you're scrambling, even if it's one question at a time, the students will see these questions in sequence, scrambled amongst themselves. For each of your questions, you can adjust how many points each of them are worth. And to do that, you can click on the change marking button here, which will open a module for you to customize your point system. So for example, if this was a multi-select question, if I click on here, I can choose how I want to award these points here. So partial would mean that students will have to choose A, B, and D to get the full mark, but they'll get half marks for each of these options. And then either or would mean that students get a full mark for either of these options. If you want to make bulk changes, so if all your questions, for example, are worth 2 points, you can click all here and then make that bulk change using this advanced marking button here and change the number of points or change how you want your multiple select questions to be graded. Great. So I'll pause here for a minute before we move on. And we have a question here. Does Akindi allow us to save a test in an external format so that we can share it with colleagues who are teaching the same course? Yes. Actually, I would suggest that if you're sharing your test with colleagues, you can just you can add them as a collaborator to your course and then just duplicate your course directly over to their course if they're also using Akindi. If they're not using Akindi and you just want to give them a version of your assessment, at the end, we will be able to download your assessment content as a PDF. Awesome. So if we'll pause here for a second. If there's any other questions coming in, I'm happy to answer them. I'm seeing there's something in the Q&A. My test contains, oh yes. Yes, so I was able to answer that. I hope I was able to answer that. Can I still enable multiple versions with this change? Yeah, so for online assessments, if you are scrambling your answers and or questions, you're already creating a multiple version assessment because each student will get a randomized a sequence of questions coming in since it's one question at a time. Awesome. Okay, so if you still have questions, feel free to continue typing it in. We will get to it. Right, so now that your content is all set up, you're ready to move on to our next step, which is creating your schedule for your online assessment. So on this schedule page, you'll be able to choose how long, so the time limit for your assessment. So if it's 2 hours, an hour and a half, you can adjust it here. And then you can customize the activation date and the deadline. The activation date and time is when the student can open the assessment. The deadline is when the assessment must be submitted by or will be automatically submitted by um, at that certain time and date. So if you want to adjust your date, you can choose it from the calendar as well as the time here. Once you're happy with it, you can then click Save and Continue, and then we will move on to the next step, which is your online assessment status page. This is where you can preview your assessment as a student, and I'll show you that in just 1 minute. But I want to first orientate you to this page here. So all this information is pulled directly from your roster that was synced over from your LMS course shell. And you'll see that in each column, you'll have different information for each of the students. So it'll tell you the assessment status. Right now is unpublished, which means the student does not know that there is an assessment here. We'll publish this at Blackboard and it will update the status. You'll see how many questions the student has completed, how much time they spent on each question, as well as the time limit you set for the student. And then also give you the activation time and deadline as well here. I'm seeing a question come in. We just take a look. You mentioned that scrambling equals multiple versions. I have 2 versions of my test. Is there a way to keep it separate without scrambling? Good question. Yes. So right now, because we still have the full PDF option available, you can upload both of these versions to your online assessment, and it will not scramble your questions for you. In the future, when the full PDF option is no longer available, you can only upload one document, one doc file. And the idea is that you don't have to do any of the scrambling anymore. Akindi will do all of that for you. But since you've already created the 2 versions of your test, then I would recommend if you're creating an online assessment right now for this semester, use the full PDF display. Excellent. So let's first look at what this looks like as a student. So I'm going to hit preview assessment. So this is what your student will see when they open their assessment as well. They will have a assessment instruction. So it basically is letting them know that they have to complete this test by a certain time. You have a certain amount of time to do it. And then they can click agree to move on to their assessment. Because it's set to one question at a time, I can see that you can see all your questions here, and you can go back and forth. And the students will simply select the questions or the answers for each of their questions, and Akindi will automatically save these as well. So there's no save button, it will automatically save. So in a situation where, for example, the student loses internet access or their computer shuts down for whatever reason, they will still be able to re-access their assessment here, and all their previous responses would have been saved. You'll also notice on the top right, there is a timer to show the student how much time they have left. If the student opens their assessment too close to the deadline, so that even though they haven't used the fully allocated time, but the deadline hits first, Akindi will auto submit the assessment for them. Once the student has submitted, so let's go and submit our assessment. It cannot be reopened. So Akindi will double check to make sure that this is right. So once the student has submitted, they will not be able to re-access that. That is something that you can reopen for them, but they will not be able to reopen the assessment on their end. So let's go back to our assessment status page here, and let's have a look at setting up accommodations. So, for example, if you have a student that has accommodations or is writing the test at a different time, you can customize their schedule. Oh, so a question come in here. How students open the test after upload and send by email? How students upload the test after Um, maybe could you clarify your question there? Are you asking how do students upload their tests? So students don't need to do anything outside of just submitting their tests. They don't have to upload anything. Once they submit it, their assessment is good to go. You can send the students' results by email back to them, and we can get to that. Yes, so if you're launching your assessment through the LMS, there you can notify students through an email that will let them know that hey, there's an assessment for you. If you are launching through email, you'll just get a link directly in your email body to access the Akindi testing environment. So that's the main difference between the LMS and the email launch. Yeah, so if you have an email, if you're launching by email, there's going to be a link directly in the email body to open the test. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so for accommodations, if the student has a different schedule for the rest of the class, you can adjust and customize this schedule for them. So, for example, if I have this one student here, they are writing on a complete different day, for example, I can go under Actions, Edit Assessment Timing. And then I can adjust this student's schedule. So for example, this student is writing the assessment a full week later. I'm going to adjust that date for them. I can adjust the time for them as well. Save and continue. And then I'll notice here that this student, their activation time and deadline are different from your other students. This is the same way you would reopen an assessment if a student has already submitted something and say you want to reopen it for them. You'll just select their name, go under Actions, and then edit their assessment timing. If you are reopening an assessment, an online assessment for a student, their new response will overwrite their old response. So only one response will show here. Once we're ready to publish our grades to our oh, yes, I have a question. Can you give students more time? Yes, absolutely. So it's the same way, same page that we were just looking at. So we'll select our student. So I think I was using Marie here. Under Actions, Edit Assessment Timing, and then I can change up here. So for example, say the students that's 3 hours instead. So they have 3 hours to complete the assessment, and then their dates have been changed. And then you'll notice once you set that up that they have 3 here for their time limit. So yes, you can absolutely customize the length of the assessment as well as the activation duration. Perfect. So if you are publishing your assessment to your LMS, we can do that by clicking the Publish to Blackboard or Publish to LMS button here. Right now, because I have no students selected, it's going to publish everybody. But say you only want to publish certain students. So maybe a student is writing earlier and you only want that student. You can just click on this one student and then publish their one assessment to Blackboard. But in this case, I want to publish everybody. So I'm going to hit Publish to Blackboard. Students will get an email notification. You can choose whether or not they do, letting them know, hey, there is an active assessment for you published on Blackboard. Go have a look. Also sharing here, just because they get an email to notify that there is an active assessment, they will not be able to access the assessment until the activation deadline or activation time. So this is purely just a notification. So then we'll click Next. You can customize the email body if you'd like. And then I'm going to publish and notify. You'll notice here that right away their status here has been changed to publish. And once a student has opened the assessment status will then be changed to opened. And then once they submit it, it'll say submitted. Once the student starts writing their assessment, you'll be able to see how much time they spent in each of in their assessment as well as how many questions they've completed. And this is a live page too. So if you're curious to know how things are going, you can just keep on refreshing it and Akindi will automatically update all this information for you as the assessment is running. So I'll pause here for a minute, see if there's any questions, and then I can move on to talk about a hybrid assessment if anyone's running a hybrid assessment. All right, there's a question here. Is it possible to upload, say, 200 midterm questions, then ask Akindi to pull 50 random questions to make the midterm test for student a different 50 for student B, et cetera, et cetera. But they all come from the original 200 questions. So thanks so much for asking that, Dan. That's actually a really, really great question. And that is something that our team is working on. That's not something that we are able to support right now, but a question bank such as the one that you just described is something that is high on our priority and that we've heard a lot of feedback for. So our team is working on that. So the idea that you can upload a batch of questions and Akindi will automatically and randomly pull from that batch of questions to create a even greater scramble of questions for each of the students. So yes, that is coming, although that is not something that we're able to support right now. Yes, yeah. So I know a lot of LMSs actually do this. They do have a question bank. Oh, but you're losing Moodle at the end of this year. I'm curious to know, are you changing to a different LMS? If you want to share that. I'm just curious to know. But yes, that is something that is coming. Oh, Google Classroom. Interesting. Okay. Okay. That's yeah, not really LMS, and we don't have an integration with Google Classroom either. But that's very good to know. I might follow up with you on that. I'll have to bring this back to our team as well. But thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about running a hybrid assessment. So hybrid assessment is something that we're kind of shifting towards a little bit too with the retirement of the full PDF and more of the one question at a time. A hybrid assessment is an assessment that accepts both online bubble sheets or online responses and the physical bubble sheets. And student can write the online assessment using a physical bubble sheet as well. So if you want to run a hybrid assessment, you can download your bubble sheets by going, let me just go back to my assessment here. You click on your midterm, so your assessment name. And yes, sorry, I'm just looking at the chat right now. Is there a list of LMS that are compatible with Akindi? We just switched to a new LMS. Yes, so Akindi is compatible with Moodle, Blackboard, Brightspace D2L, Canvas, Blackboard Canvas. And I think that's it, the four of them. Yeah. That being said, those are our four main integrations. If there is a high demand for a different LMS, I'm sure our team is open to creating that for you too. Any plans to integrate with Absorb? No, not right now, but let me bring that back to our product manager. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Excellent. Okay, so right now we're looking at creating physical bubble sheets for our online assessment. So what we just did is in our Akindi dashboard, we clicked on our assessment title to open up this page here. We don't have any responses right now, that's why it's blank, but what we're looking for is this action button right here. We can click on that and then you can click download bubble sheets. You can then choose to pre-fill any of your student information. So if you've used Akindi paper, this is the exact same process where your student's first name, last name, and student number will already be printed on the bubble sheet, or you can just print a blank bubble sheet. And once you click print, this will open, oh, it should open a bubble sheet for you, but in this case it's not. But it will essentially be a bubble sheet PDF. And then you can then print that PDF as many times as you need for students who are writing this online assessment using paper. For students writing an online assessment using paper and you are not using the full PDF display, you can also download the question sheets here. So if you download this question sheet, you'll essentially get a PDF version of this assessment that you uploaded, and students will essentially write the original order. Once you've run your hybrid assessment and you've collected in your physical bubble sheets, you can then scan those bubble sheets using any type of scanner and upload it onto your online assessment. And how you upload it onto your online assessment is you can click back into your assessment here, and you can click Upload Response Sheets. Then you'll select the PDF of the scanned bubble sheets that you just scanned, and you can upload that directly into your assessment so that your grades for your students who wrote on paper and the grades for students who wrote online will all be in one place. Okay, so I'll pause here for a minute before we move on to results. Do we have any questions? Okay, great. So in this situation, my students have submitted their online assessments. You can see that this has now been submitted. They don't have any time spent because I cheated here and I just uploaded bubble sheets just so we can have a look at results. But it'll show the time they spent when you run an actual online assessment. And now I'm ready to look at the results. So I'm going to click View Results. And this will bring me to my Overview tab here. If you ran a paper assessment, this is the exact same layout, the exact same information that you're going to get. On the left-hand side, you have your assessment average. By default, your questions are in the original order, but you can also sort this by the hardest question or the easiest question. Underneath that, you have your discriminatory score, which indicates how well a question performed between high-performing students and low-performing students. And then you can also sort this by the most effective question and the least effective question. If you need to change your answer key, you can do this directly here as well. So I can click on the question I want to change my answer key for, select the updated answer and how I want to weigh this answer mark, and click Save Changes. And Akindi will automatically regrade all of that for you. Next, we have the graphs chart, which gives you a further breakdown of your analytics, such as your grade distribution. And then here we have our responses. So the responses tab shows the individual breakdown of student results with the responses for individual questions and answers. By default, this is in the original order of your assessment. So earlier I mentioned that Akindi is able to support hand-graded marks. So we are for online assessments, we're unable to support the question itself, and Akindi does not mark hand-graded marks, hand-graded questions, but we are able to support including that mark into your assessment. So when you send your grades over to your Blackboard or your gradebook, it's one total grade. So when I say written answer questions or hand-graded marks, I mean questions such as short answers, essays, fill in the blanks, anything that requires the students to actually write something. So in this situation, you've ran your online assessment. For example, you have a couple of essay questions you want to add the marks in for. And we can do this by using the Enter Hand-Graded Marks button here. You'll enter the highest possible hand-graded mark. So for example, I have 4 short answer questions worth 5 marks each. So I'll put in 20. And this will open my speed entry for my hand-graded marks. There are 3 ways to enter your hand-graded marks, and which method you decide to use depends entirely on how you have graded your written answer questions. So the first way is the speed entry. So this is when you enter your student's name in the search bar to bring them up. So your test sheets, for example, your marked essay questions are not in any particular order. You just have a pile and it's random, but you are just entering the student's marks. You can just search them by name, click enter, enter their grades, go back to the search bar, search the next student's name, click enter, type in their marks, and then go back to the search bar. So as you go down your pile, you can enter all the students' grades there. The second method is to enter grades alphabetically. So for example, if your your essays are all in alphabetical order, this list is also in alphabetical order by last name. So you can enter the students' marks using the up-down arrow to move between all their names. And once you're all set there, you can click Save, and Akindi will create a new column for you here called Hand Marks. The third way of entering your hand graded marks is directly into the response tab here, as if it was like an Excel file. And in this scenario, it is best if you have not marked any of your students' grades yet, and you're entering the marks as you mark them. So I'm marking one student, I'm entering the grade, marking another student, entering the grade. So how we enter grades here, you double click on the cell, you type in their grade, click enter to move to the next cell, and then you can just keep entering your way all the way down the chart. And then for this, you just want to click Save Changes. So that is how you'll enter your hand graded marks. Currently, we are only able to support the total of all your hand graded marks. So if you have like 5 different questions, it is the total of the 5. What we are working on and will probably be live in the next couple of weeks is the ability to enter your hand graded marks separately. So if you have 5 different questions, you enter each 5 marks separately. And then Akindi, of course, would do all that math for you. Once you're ready to send your grades to your gradebook, it is this total that will be sent. So it's the total of the multiple choice as well as the hand graded marks that will be sent directly to your gradebook. And to send grades to your gradebook, you can click the Send Grades to Blackboard or whatever your LMS is. And if you have an existing column already created in your gradebook, you can select it here. If not, you can also create a new column as well directly in Akindi. And then you can click Send. So let me just create a new column. And you click Send to send your grades over. By default, Akindi is going to have the grades out of the default marks, so in this case 30. But if you want to scale your assessment grades, you can also type in whatever number you want to scale it to, and Akindi will automatically send that grade and do all that math for you. It'll give you a summary of how many grades are being sent and if there's any errors. And once you're ready, we can click Send, and all those grades will be directly sent to your gradebook. And once that's been sent, there'll be an updated column here, and you'll see that these have all been sent over. When sending grades to your gradebook, students are only getting the raw mark here, so students don't actually know which questions they got right or wrong, or how the breakdown was between the written answers and the multiple choice. So what we can do is share the student report with the students. So if you click on this little icon next to each individual student, you'll open a report preview, and it will look like this. Well, you have the student's information here, their percentage mark, their multiple choice mark, their hand graded marks, and then their total. They will, if you uploaded your bubble sheet, in this case I uploaded mine, they will have the raw scan of your bubble sheet. But if it is a purely online assessment where there is no physical bubble sheet, it'll just be a list of their incorrect/correct answers. And you can email this report directly to students by going under Actions, Deliver Student Report. And again, you can choose if you want to deliver this through email or through your LMS, the exact same scenario where if you deliver through email, they can access it directly from the email body. If you deliver it through your LMS, they have to log in first. You can choose to show the correct answers, which is the ABCD. Otherwise, it's just the check mark and the cross. And then there is the expiration date. So if you want students to see the results by a certain day. And once you're ready, you can send that over. And Akindi will deliver those reports directly to your students. Once that is done, you will notice a new column in your chart which says report status. And it'll show you if there's any errors, but it will mostly say sent. If you're looking to save your data in any other way, you can also download this chart as a CSV file. And you can also download the corrected sheet. So again, if it's an online assessment, there isn't a raw scan, there isn't a raw PDF. But if you download the corrected sheets, you essentially get a PDF of a list of all the answers your student selected in the online assessment. At any point of using Akindi, if you have any questions or if you run into any issues, you can access our support team by clicking on this blue button here. And this will open a chat with us, and our team is just on the other side, and we're happy to help you. Our response time is typically a couple of hours. But yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to us there. Excellent. So that is running your Akindi online assessment and hybrid assessment, as well as sending your grades directly to your gradebook. So I'll pause here for a minute. I'm curious to know if there's any questions. All right, excellent. Oh, yes, there is a question coming in. Just wanted to confirm if we'll receive a recording of this webinar. Yes, we will. Yes, you will. I will send out a recording along with other resources following our session today. I love Akindi for paper/bubble sheet testing. Oh, I'd love to hear it. That's great. Excellent. So our team builds features entirely based off of instructor feedback. So if you have any feedback or comments, or you notice any gaps in the workflow that you know you'll benefit from and you know you'll find value out of, please reach out to us. I'm going to share in the chat our product manager's email, indie.com, and my email as well. So if you have any feature feedback you want to share, Krista loves hearing from instructors. If you have any questions about support or any troubleshooting, feel free to reach out directly to myself as well. All right, so another question. Do you guys have a consultant group of educators? I'm in the Blackboard group, and we've been able to initiate a lot of improvements. Oh, we do not actually, not within Akindi, no. I mean, we do have some instructors that we reach out to for interviews if we want to learn more about how they envision a feature to look. But that is actually a very interesting question. Yeah. Our consultant group of educators is you, all of you. If you have a feedback or feature feedback you want, we definitely reach out to ask more information so that we can build this to a standard that you'll find value in. Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining today's session. I hope you all walk away feeling confident and excited about using Akindi. And again, there will be a bit of a transition if you are used to the full PDF format, but that is not going to affect any existing assessments. This will only come into effect in after the spring semester. So if you're teaching a summer course, or if you're teaching in the fall, that is when you'll see the effect. So you don't have to worry about editing any existing online assessments or creating new online assessments. We are just trying to get the word out there so it's not too much of a shock when it actually comes into play. So the support team is available and only a message away. And thank you everybody for joining today. And yeah, we love to hear from you. Thanks everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Take care.